And I would like to invite now our expert for the diet talk, and she's an expert in all the meetings, and she's none other than Miss Rima Rao. She is alumnus of the Department of Food and Nutrition, MS University Vadodara, and currently she is associate professor in the dietetic department of home science at the Rajkot. Along with her academic career, she is also a registered dietitian, certified FOD MAP dietitian from the Mons University, Australia. She is a member of Board of Studies, Saurashtra University. She is a member of Technical Advisory Committee, State Nutrition Cell. She is an immediate past convener of the Indian Dietetic Association Gujarat chapter, and she is the organizing secretary for 52nd Annual National Conference of IDA 2019. Currently, she is a member of National Executive Council of the Indian Dietetic Association. And she was involved in the developing the guidance document on Eat Right during the COVID-19, which was published by FSSAI and the Eat Right India, a Government of India initiative on the 7th June 2020. So I welcome you, Dr. Rima Rao, ma'am, and thank you very much for being an expert. As we know that you are out of your home, but in your holiday time again, you had joined us.
Thank you, Dr.
Request
Shil.
your
It's
comments,
always
ma'am.
a pleasure to. Huh? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
It's always a pleasure to be a part of Swasthekon team, and it is my pleasure today to invite my friend Dr. Priya Karkera, and she is one of the those tech savvy dietitians we have. Uh, she's one of the pioneers actually, and in the field of diet app she has made, and does great work. So welcome, Priya. I think
yes,
Dr.
Dr.
Sushil.
Sushil will introduce her.
Yes, please
Yeah.
introduce Dr. Priya.
So, ma'am has rightly introduced her that Dr. Priya Karkera is a PhD scholar. She is a Chief Nutrition Officer in the Fitterfly Health Technology, and she has many awards and recognition in her portfolio. She is a clinical chief nutritionist working in the multi-specialty hospitals. She is a Central Advisory Committee, Indian Association of the Parental and Enteral Nutrition. She is a Global Nutrition Program and Indian Advisor Coordinator. She is a winner in the Woman in the Innovations and the Technology 2020 for the healthcare. She is a lead nutritionist and leading the team of 40 nutritionists. And she is also involved in the training and the operations, designing the digital therapeutic programs for the maternal and the child health. She is planning and execution of the research studies protocol, and she has many publications in the national and the international journals. So she is that much eminent that we had clubbed this diet talk and the technology talk together for today's lecture. And now I request Dr. Priya to deliver her lecture, that is innovation in the digital nutrition. Over to you, Dr. Priya.
Yes, thank you so much. At the outset, I would really like to thank Swasthya Group and my dear friend Rima for having bestowed this opportunity. And I will be my talk today. I'll try and keep it as crisp, but there's so much to share, and with such eminent audience, I think I want to be the voice of the nutrition fraternity here, showcasing the evolution of digital nutrition in the current era. I would dedicate this talk to my organization, Fitterfly Health Tech. We're a 4-year-old startup, and we've moved a long way. And I think now we hold our feet strong in the zone of digital therapeutics. So way back in 1990, the father of nutrition, as we all know, Dr. Gopalan, had actually showcased in his first article that technology is going to bring about a big revolution in the field of nutrition. So it was not something that has hit us during the COVID, or maybe for the last 4 or 5 years, but it was way back in 1990 that this was already predicted. Uh, So what does nutrition informatics, or when we say technology in nutrition, actually contribute to? So we look at this whole, this whole formulation as where we have a domain expert, we have the nutrition data. We want to create an impact with the population and lay emphasis on better compliance, better empathy, and better engagement with the consumers, so that we can ensure that the guidelines are followed, the recommendations are followed, and act as an adjunct therapy to the medical fraternity, to ensure that metabolic diseases are taken care of. So where was the start point? WHO way back, came out with a lot of tech support, which is very rampant in the Western countries, be it the EMRs, be it the tele support system or the telemedicine system, and rules are really, really laid very, very well by the WHO. However, to implement health informatics into the healthcare systems has been a challenge. Of course, Western countries have taken this very well, and it's time that India is adapting to this whole change. So let's look at the journey of the evolution of technology from 2004 to 2020. Way back in 2004, when we searched for technology in nutrition or healthcare, there were no searches found on Google. By 2010, we had about 1,90,000. By 2014, it evolved to 2 crore, 22 crore 93, 23 lakhs. And by 2020, I think the figures speak for themselves for the evolution of this segment. So, what is a growing value of digital health in India? While the entire nation is talking about telemedicine, digital health, and I think as doctors, all of you have adapted to this webinar platform, teleconsultation platform. Wellness and prevention, the zone where nutrition, diet, health, and exercise actually falls into, has been given a lot of importance. Now, coming to the problem statement in India, it's not one, but of course, we need, while we are talking about digital nutrition or digital innovation, the route taken by our Prime Minister of Digital India ensures we cover urban and rural population, we cover community health, we cover population. We want to reach to extreme borders and finally address the non-communicable and communicable diseases. So if I have to put it in a nutshell, it's a growing revolution. And in the domains, especially in diabetes, pregnancy, PCOS, obesity, to some amount in pediatrics and the emerging fields of hypertension and mental health. These are the areas where nutrition technology can be very, very helpful and can actually help the consumers at large. Now, if we talk about what are the four interdisciplinary approach when we talk about health informatics or digital health or digital nutrition, we have to have sustainable platforms which we can use. We have to have health management system or a care process in place. We need to have advanced statistics to look at our data. Now, we as a country, of course, the data here is not as secure and not as well taken care of like in the Western countries. Of course, we are moving ultimately there. But I think today, looking at data analytics and looking at the way data is flowing in because of use of technology, I think management of this data is very, very important. Some telemedicine setup, which has been path breaking in India, are as listed below. Some of you may be aware of some. I think the most common, which may be crucial to this fraternity, is by Mohan-Sir's Diabetes Center. What was the early use, which states actually adapted to the early use of EMR? EMR is electronic medical record. So this is how it looks. Some of these states adapted to electronic medical record at a very, very early stage in India. However, today I think it's much more fast growing. So if you look at information communications, or if you look at IoTs, which is especially coming in the world of nutrition, and you see a lot of people using health apps, using artificial intelligence, where you have your Siri or Ria, who is kind of populating consumer behavior. I think it being guided by medical professionals and allied health professionals like the nutrition fraternity is very, very essential. So from the computerization era, we move to the automation era. And today we have the ODE, which is the open digital ecosystem era, where we talk about digital performance or use of consumer behavior. And with COVID-19, I think India has a big opportunity to push in through the health ODE. So, what are the gaps in the healthcare? Now, I'm going to be speaking a little about diabetes and our work in diabetes. So, we have about 90 million pre-diabetes. I'm sure all of you are aware, and probably with better statistics than this. So, what are the gaps? We have no preventive programs. Doctors are extremely busy in helping them with medications, but somewhere because of the population being diabetic, there is a lack of time and lack of tools to aid doctors in helping the consumers or the patients with lifestyle management. So people struggle to make the changes. Probably they're taking the insulin on time, they're taking the meds on time, but there is a very high stress factor. They aren't sleeping well, they have marriages, they have parties. And with the lockdown, I think there is one Sanjeev Kapoor in every house, who is trying all the innovative recipes. So you need to do justice to your family, so you want to eat everything. And where is all this data? So we have during the lockdown and early last year, we developed a DiabeFly, which is a digital therapeutic program. So who actually requires? So typically pre-diabetes requires support and monitoring, uncontrolled diabetes where nutrition may be a factor, preconceptional or weight related or borderline hypochondriac patients who would require this kind of constant support, monitoring and hammering into their lifestyle. So, what is digital therapeutics actually? It's an evolving field in the field of nutrition and technology. And I would say therapeutic meaning not just nutrition, but look at personalized nutrition plan, look at exercise and fitness guidance, stress management, monitor and compliance, health literacy, and a lot of motivation and support. I think the pandemic has been a very, very big a factor which I think in the first era it was all about nutrition, having your vitamin C, having your omega 3. But the second wave has somewhere brought a lot of importance to mental health. And if you look at be it neuroscience, be it gastrointestinal, cardiovascular, be it addiction, be it oncology, and most importantly, diabetes, digital therapeutics is really evolving. So what do we do in our program? So we have a primary coach, we have the patient, and we have the doctor. And what do? We give tech support, we give a physiotherapist support, and we have a clinical psychologist support. So this is very, very scientifically curated. The doctor is kept into the loop. We've developed a health management software platform which is used by over 100 dietitians. We have an app which is a Ready Reckoner for dietitians, which has over 10,000 downloads. So can your clinic be powered by Fitifly? Yes. So it just requires a structure. We have our DTX program. You can set up your own digital therapeutic clinic and program. And currently we are doing a lot of trial programs, lot of trial studies with doctors because the data is finally the doctors. So there is a lot of science and a lot of backing and validation to our programs. So just quickly going through the program, it's a 3-month program wherein every week there is progression in terms of what is the value that we can bring to the patients. I don't want to go through this in detail, but this is just to showcase how the hammering is done, how the monitoring is done. These are called patient support programs. Normally, there are a lot of pharma companies out there who want to offer patient support programs, but due to lack of resources or lack of kind of wanting to bridge the gap, there's been a lacuna here, and we identified this lacuna and have kind of built upon this. So I'm going to show some of our results which we've presented at various conferences. So we have like a mean HbA1c drop. We have about 85% of our patients who've shown drop in HbA1c levels. We've had publications in Jelaram and AS and ADE. We've had talks at TEDx trying to show what is what is the effect that we can bring with a monitored program in diabetes. If you look at when we say DIVFly is our name of our program, RWE or RWD, which is real world evidence and real world data, is like the in thing that's happening. Now, what is the levels of personalization? So we look at age, gender, body composition, ethnicity, language preference. India being a vast culturally diverse nation, I think food is very dear to us, whether it is a festival, whether it's a marriage, whether it is any occasion. We really concentrate on the food that we eat. So ethnicity, language preference, your socioeconomic class, your food preferences, all this is taken into consideration. Your family history, what is your family lifestyle, what is your daily routine, what are the things that is generally cooked at home, how is it cooked, and of course knowledge about diabetes. So we ensure in this 3 months tenure all of this is communicated to the patient at his ease. So the way we look at these programs is we tag the food diversity. The very recent Fanta study which happened in 2017, which was a very very big study, actually kind of brought about new guidelines in the food diversity score. And I think it's very, very important, more so when we handle a GDM or for maternal and child health. We look at intake versus what is spent. We track physical activity. We have meal distribution, which is very, very important in diabetes. We track carbohydrate, percentage carbohydrate consumption. Now, it's very easy as nutritionists to tell patients or for doctors to, kind of write on prescriptions that we need to cut your carbohydrates. So, what is carbohydrate? What am I eating? What am I supposed to eat? The patient is all confused. So, we are here to bridge that gap. So what do we not do? Understanding that we never alter the doctor's prescription or the treatment plan. We never share patient data with third parties. We never suggest medical tests or supplements. So as a company policy, I think as nutritionists and as a fraternity, we need to ensure that we are abiding by this if we want the fraternity to grow, if we want to make that difference to the number of people outside. We do not, of course, I mean, there's always an insecurity, is this doctor better or that doctor better? So everything is kept, the data is secure. We do not cross refer patients to any other specialist. The data goes back to the doctor. Now I'm quickly going to take you let me okay. So when we call, we also do continuous glucose monitoring and SMBG both. So this is something that is evolved, and this is some finding of ours which I would just like to show you. I'm sure all of you would have seen how the CGM report looks. So our CU is also from the medical fraternity, was diagnosed with pre-diabetes, and this is actually his food diary. And he got a CGM put on himself, and we tracked his intake, and we were so beautifully able to map his dietary intake with his sugar. So whenever he ate walnut, his sugars would not go high. But when he ate a Maggie, in spite of having a beetroot juices, we saw fluctuations of the sugar. So this is how we were able to actually track his, just a moment, I had a video here. Yeah. So we were able to track his sugar response all through the journey when he fed food diaries, and we could see the fluctuations in the sugar. We could look at the personalized glycemic response. I'm sure all of you understand, although we have a glycemic index and a glycemic load of a meal, what is upcoming in the research fraternity and in the current scientific data is we look at personalized glycemic response. How I may respond to rice may be completely different. We've developed meal mapping, which is basically actually shows us what is the percentage alpha deviation of carbohydrate intake. Now, we could do all of this, like if you saw this adopted moong dal halwa, and we saw that, the blood sugars raised after 30 minutes. So when we look at this kind of responses, it becomes very evident and very scientifically backed to the nutritionist to kind of, tweak the diet as per personalization of the consumer. So I'll just, so this is just to show how the various foods, the orange shows that the sugar is increased after 1 hour, after 2 hours. So when you eat garlic bread, it increased, otherwise it didn't. Uh, okay, so what is it that we share with the patient? We give them a nutrition report, and for the first time, we thought when you do your hemoglobin, you get a printed report. Why is it that from the nutrition fraternity we are unable to give any kind of a report, and we're only doing prescriptions saying that you should eat so much of protein, you should eat so much carbohydrate? As a consumer, I would love to know what am I how much am I currently eating, where is it coming from, and what is the change and what is the gap. So we created this need based report which actually shows you what should be your consumption base, what is your current distribution, and we take an average. I think nutrition is something that you cannot track every day. It's always an average of 7 days or an average of 5 days. We have a very highly personalized approach. So because of having the tech platform, we are able to consider all of this and deliver it to the patients. So there's a lot of interaction on the app these days. I'm sure in the Western countries there are plenty of apps who are doing this. If you reach out to them, the content is not Indian. It may not relate. It may show you bagels and buns and burger and probably all the Western foods. On our app, the content is very very Indianized. We talk of millets. We talk about sugar free. We talk about educating the consumer. And coming to mental well-being, which we very recently added as an adjunct therapy, typically it's very very overlooked, and we have two studies, one in the physical therapy and one in the mental wellness, which are up for publication, and we will be soon seeing it in the digital therapeutic journals, or diabetes technology journals, where we have seen that 66 of our patients have emotional distress, 30% have physician distress because the doctors constantly tweaking the medicine. This was an eye opener to us as well. And like I said, 28% of the population had interpersonal distance, maybe family problems, and 35% we found them having sleep issues. Of course, this was a pilot study, and we're looking to collect more data and have publications on this segment. With respect to physical fitness, these were some of our findings, which I think we all are very well aware. But when it comes to scientific publication, we are able to hammer on this and talk about real world evidence and talk about real world data here. We manage the 5 pillars of diabetes. So I'm going to go quickly here. And finally, I think digital health is a new era that is, kind of bringing in the innovation in the 21st century, and it will be an intersection of biology and technology. So, like entire medical fraternity is moving forward. Currently, the Indian Academy of Pediatrics has launched the biggest digital division, which even IMA has approached, and it's done by the NSDL. And we happen to be the sole partners of nutrition care process in the digital platform, where the consults are sourced to us. So while the pediatric segment is moving towards digitization, the diabetes segment is moving towards digitization. We are trying to pave our way into women's health. PCOS is big time into the digital segment because these patients need support. I'm sure all of you agree PCOS is nothing but lifestyle management. So when there is a big need out there, it's a call out to doctors to come together with nutritionists, with allied health professionals to and use these kind of digital platforms, which is a win-win situation to both the fraternity, and ultimately the benefit is passed on to the consumers. So finally, just like how you have foods packed very compact, I think it's high time the entire healthcare system is looked upon like this, and we're able to pack it together and offer it to the consumers for their benefit. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm happy to take your questions, and I've tried to keep it as brief as possible. But as I said, there's a lot out there to share. You can reach us on www.betterfly.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Priya. And indeed, pleasure that you had gone through the journey. And like we shared, as a Swasthya team and even Dr. Prasanna Kumar, and there are plenty of dignitaries, we started our practices maybe 36 years back. And we started our electronic prescription in 1990s. And how no, we know that how 1990s and those eras and to present era, how we have moved on. There is a comment from Dr. M also and Dr. Prasanna Kumar also. So Dr. Mayur Patel, if you want to share, and if anyone wants to share, they can raise your hand. We can ask you to unmute and you can go ahead. Yes, doctor.
Priya, Dr. Mayur Patel here. You are doing a great job, and it is need of the day. And we all clinicians need such type of Dr. Prasanna Kumar and other faculties will agree with me that for doctors, managing or monitoring diet, supervising all these things is very difficult. So it has a great role. We'll like to interact with you a later part of the day or maybe some other day for further actions.
So
Okay.
our medication monitoring is a different game, and the lifestyle monitoring is a
Yes.
something different aspect. We can build on the same aspect.
Yes,
We have gone to the
absolutely.
personalized patient care, but how we can reach to individual care is something differently.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, like I said, the disclaimer is we don't change the doctor's prescription, and patients come back to us and ask insulin कम करे क्या, medication मैं बंद कर दूँ, मेरा sugar तो अभी control में आ गया, मेरा diabetes reverse हो गया. We go through all of this, and I think more than the nutrition aspect at that point in time, it's the mental wellness aspect which actually helps the patient to understand, cool down, don't get agitated, go back to your doctor, let him on prescription say, okay, fine, you can reduce the dose. But this continuous hammering is like changing human behavior. So we use what is called the nudge theory. And we try to make a difference and push the patient back to the doctor. I'm sure in this pandemic a lot of doctors have been saying my patients don't come back because they just think dawai likhe de diya, sab kuch theek ho gaya. So I think we've been able to help the patients, push them back to the doctors, and doctors are very happy about that because they're able to closely monitor their patients and able to bring out that difference that they actually want to achieve.
Yes.
And it's a lot of satisfaction.
So there is a vast difference between chronic care to the lifelong care and the patient care to individual care. It is
Absolutely.
really appreciated. Yes, Dr. Prasanna Kumar, you were about to share.
Thank you, Dr. Priya, for an excellent talk on Karkira. Sorry, Dr. Priya Karkira, excellent talk on that. My
Thank you, sir.
question is,
Yes.
I'm not just interested in diabetes, whether
Yes.
we have tertiary care, secondary care, forget primary care. There's no dietitian, no diet in primary care. If we see, hardly we see 3 to 5% of the diabetics. 90% are managed by the GPs, where there is no dietitian. Whatever doctor says, come khalo, shakkar nahi, good nahi, bas, that's all. There is no diet chart. Now, India is a country where we should be ashamed of rather than proud of, where 25% of the women in the reproductive age group are malnourished. Now, that is something shame after 70 years of it. Go back to children. 46.6 million children in India have stunted growth. What is the cause? Cause is malnutrition mostly. And what happens? Nearly below the age of 5 years, 50% of the death is because of nutrition. Now the question is, it is fine. We have all the ornaments, have everything fantastic. How does it reach these people? How do you leverage this technology of digital? Forget EMR, forget video consultation, all that for niche groups. And we had maybe about 500 million smartphone users in 2019. The predicted today is 736 million. 50% have it. Who does it use? They use only for WhatsApp and video. Apart from that, no. Infrastructure. You say Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay. When you are doing it, sir, the internet is falling. So what are we doing to, unless you have an infrastructure, having smartphone with an idiot, it does not make any difference. How do you think the leveraging this technology to reduce the maternal malnutrition below 18 BMI is about 1/4 of Indian women population, and in children where it's a huge number. What I'm interested is not in the allied group in my clinic or Chalaram or Mohan, does not make any difference at all. With all that people follow, as you said, it is not just having a smartphone, giving a diet chart. This knowledge, a tremendous amount of knowledge with all our patients. It only gets converted into action in 10% of it. So how do you leverage this technology for maternal malnutrition as well as in the child malnutrition to see that we are not in the worst of the part for this malnutrition, whether artificial intelligence and whether it is general intelligence, a very low hanging fruit. How do you foresee that in future?
That's a great question, sir. And I think, like you said, it's not the elite population whom we are worried about, who have the reach to even doctors. It's about that population where we want to make a difference. And here I would really like to put forward some data. I mean, of course, it's in a very preliminary stage of the work that we are doing in maternal health. So we are basically catering to pregnant women, of course, across the country. So we have language specific coaches. So I think that's what I said, looking at language specification. So if I'm a Tamilian and I'm going to talk to my coach and she say, oh, hello, or if I'm a Maharashtra and say, okay, tumi kasha ahat, that bridge is just broken there. So that I think is one. And as a nutrition fraternity, we have dietitians across the country. So even to build our nutrition database, we reached out to dietitians from Assam, from Manipur, because I think that's a very forgotten segment, and probably a lot of malnutrition lies there. We studied their lifestyle, we studied the foods that they are eating. Everybody understands Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Punjabi. So what about the hidden states? What about Madhya Pradesh? What about the northeastern states? What about Uttarakhand? What are they exactly eating there? What is the prevalence of conditions there? So when we did all this study, and our first pilot in GDM and in pregnancy is on, we've enrolled about 30 patients now. We're looking at data of 50 women. The compliance is so poor because pregnancy is something that they think they know everything. You have mothers and mother-in-laws to guide, you have family to kind of say, and you have the world to tell you what is right and what is wrong. So I think there is a need of constant reinforcement to this population, and the government is doing a fantastic job. Be it the Eat Right motion, Rima is a part of the Eat Right movement, trying to seep in that kind of digital technology. Like you said, sir, yes, mobile phones with WhatsApp is available across the country, but of course to watch movies. So we have uneducated patients who are very happy to, give us the data on the phone that many ye khaya, many ye khaya. But okay, to ask them to use our app, they may not be all that keen. So we converse with such patients on WhatsApp or just pick up the phone and speak to them, which kind of breaks the barrier. And when we see that impact on their probably wife or the child, I think it comes on by itself. Coming to the pediatric segment, malnutrition, yes, definitely a very very big question to address, but I think today there is equal amount of emphasis on malnutrition and malnutrition. So like we say, malnutrition is not just a BMI below 80, it's also the BMI above 25. We see children with a weight of 80 kgs in 5th and 6th standard, which is an adult equivalent. So it's scary, while, which is the population we want to address first. A
Yes.
lot of NGOs are doing tremendous amount of work in the malnutrition, giving them food supplements, pharma is out there, your CSR activities, corporates is out there. What about the malnutrition? So we want to address the population probably who's literate first, correct it in them, and with the way the health digital India is going, probably seep into the rural population and try and bring about benefits. I think
So,
that would be that can be the approach.
Priya, Dr. Priya, so that enrolls me to share all of our participants that we are having an innovation by non-governmental organization, a different conference, which is built from 12th to 14th of August. And we
Okay.
all are invited. We'll make sure that invitation goes to all participants of ourselves. We can register, even we can share our innovations also. So there is a timeline for sharing the innovations also, and there is an award ceremony also for the expertise and building on the same. We will make sure in by next week we'll all receive the invitation for the same. And thank you, and keeping to the crisp of the
Yes,
time
absolutely.
of today's, yeah, I would push the further aspect of our today's meeting. And thank you, Dr. Priya, for joining in and supporting. And yes, Rima madam has a bandwidth issue of the internet and she is not there, but we'll appreciate on behalf of all of our team, we acknowledge your efforts for the same.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Pleasure. And now